Alright guys, so this is my Karador Ghost Chieftain EDH deck tech part 2, where I'm going to be going over some of the reasons I made some individual cards choices, some strategies, some synergy. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first thing I'll talk about is all the lands, which I'm actually not really going to talk about. They're either basics or dual color or tricolor, or they bring a little bit of an ability to the field, but they're all just the lands and they're frankly not that interesting. My artifacts, I only run 2. Strionic Resonator is awesome in this deck because I run a ton, and I mean a ton, of Enter the Battlefield abilities or triggered abilities, which this can copy all of them. Being able to play an Angel of Despair and copy her ability, or a Karmic Guide and copy the res ability, or really just anything like that, super value. And then I run Ashnod's Altar, strictly because it is a free sack outlet that can generate mana. I don't really worry about the mana too much. I don't really use it for the mana so much as the free sack outlet to just get the super value out of it. My sweepers only run a few: Wrath of God, Day of Judgment, Damnation, Life's Finale, and Phyrexian Rebirth. They're sweepers, pretty basic. It's what they do. They sweep the board. They don't really hurt me too much because this deck can really rebuild. So killing off everything to be able to rebuild my side, not a huge deal. I'm going to go into next what I like to call my Reclamation Spells. This is just a small suite of spells that are focused just on getting things back. So I run Regrowth, Down and Dirty, strictly for the dirty part, to return a creature, a card from my graveyard to my hand, and Recollect. These are just 3 spells, and each one of them has the exact same effect for 2 different costs of mana. I have a 3 cost, a 3 cost, and a 2 cost, all just to get a card back from my graveyard to my hand, be it a sweeper or a creature or whatever I may need at the time. This next little trio, not really trio, I don't know why I said trio, but this next little group of spells is what I like to call my tutor spells. They're not necessarily all tutors, but I use them for a tutor purpose. So Green Sun Zenith can tutor for a green creature equal to the X cost, put it right in the battlefield. It's awesome, and it goes back into the library. My Demonic Tutor is better than yours because it's signed. Beseech the Queen can search for any card equal to the number of lands I have. Diabolic Tutor is Demonic Tutor's little brother. And Tooth and Nail being probably the best green tutor ever printed. What it does, I think a lot of people misplay it sometimes. 7 mana to search your library for any 2 creatures, or put any 2 creatures from your hand into play. Or if you pay the extra 2 mana and entwine it, you can do both. But I think where a lot of people miss the boat is they play it and entwine it to search for 2 creatures and put those 2 creatures into play. But you don't have to put those 2 creatures into play. I could search for a Sun Titan and an Inferno Titan, if it was a different color deck, and I can put 2 completely different creatures into play. It doesn't have to be those 2. I think that makes it even better than people really take it for. Next up, I'm going to talk about what I call my Rant Spells. They're not actually Rant Spells, but Genesis Wave, huge in a green deck. This might as well be a staple in anything that has green in it. 3 green and then X. Whatever you put into X, be it 10, 15, 20, 25, you flip that many cards from the top of your library, and anything that costs that much or less goes into play free. It's amazing. Amazing. And then we have Boundless Rooms, probably one of the best ramp spells ever printed. It does cost 7, but it gives you a basic land for every land you have on the board. So if you play this and you have 9 lands down, you get 9 basics. That is awesome. Truly awesome. And then we have my enchantments. My enchantments really aid in the fact that I go for an attrition style of game, where I'm trying to get things back and take your things out, and you'll really see that with the enchantments that I run. So I run Oversold Cemetery, which, as long as I have 4 creatures in my graveyard at my upkeep, I can take back 1 of them. Defense of the Heart, probably one of the best green enchantments ever printed. 4 cost at the beginning of my upkeep. If my opponent has 3 creatures, I sacrifice this to put any 2 creatures from my deck, straight from my deck, into play. And a lot of times I'll grab one of my bigger, badder creatures and Eternal Witness to get back Defense of the Heart to use it again. Brave Pact, awesome. If I have this down and I lose a guy, everybody loses a guy. Dictate of Erebos, the meaner brother of Grave Pact. It costs 1 more, but it has flash, so you can, trick it into play. If someone tries to maybe Plague Wind, you just flash this in, and they lose all their creatures as well. Mirari's Wake, phenomenal. Doubles your mana for 5 and gives your creatures a +1/+1. I don't really care too much about the +1/+1, but the double banner is awesome. Deathbridge Chant, I love this card. It doesn't get a lot of love. A lot of people hate on it for the mill 10, but it mills for 10. It only costs 6 to play. At the beginning of every one of your upkeeps, from then on out, as long as this remains in play, you get to randomly choose a card from your graveyard. If it's a creature card, it goes boom, right into play. If not, it goes into your hand. Just further my goal of resurrection and attrition. Wild Pair, I cut Birthing Pod specifically for this because I don't run a lot of chaining in my deck on the casting costs, but I have a lot of guys that are 5/5s or 6/6s or 4/4s, so this right here has really been like a lot of value more than Birthing Pod. And Martyr's Bond is the even bigger, even meaner, even uglier version of Grave Pact and Dictate of Erebos, whereas it costs 6, but this will also affect my artifacts and my enchantments as well as my creatures. So if I lose a creature, you lose a creature. If I lose an artifact, you lose an artifact. If I lose an enchantment, you lose an enchantment. Pretty amazing. Debtor's Knell, free res every turn. Sure, I'll take it. 7 mana, that's okay. But a free res every single turn from any graveyard, I will take that. And now I'm going to go over the creatures that I run in the deck and why I run them. One thing I will say that the creatures in this deck are really what makes the deck shine. It has a really big creature package, and the point of the creature package is that's where I get a lot of my destruction from and my benefits from. The enchantments and artifacts I'm running are really just support, and the spells I'm running are just support to really what the creatures do to win the game. So let's go through them. First up is Kami of the False Hope, a 1-cost 1/1 spirit that I can sacrifice to Fog. Spore Frog, which is a 1-cost 1/1 that I can sacrifice to Fog, so those two really saved me early game till I can stabilize. Viscera Seer, 1-cost 1/1 that I can sacrifice to Scry 1. Someone tries to kill a bunch of my stuff, I'll just set up my next draw, you know, or get rid of a bunch of cards I don't need to the bottom of my library. Saffi Eriksdotter, she is a 2-cost 2/2 that I can sacrifice to save a creature, and the way that save works is I sacrifice her, put that bubble on the creature, and what that will do is the next time that creature dies that turn, it will go to the graveyard but immediately come back. So it will also re-trigger any of its abilities, its come into play abilities. We have Qasali Pridemage. Qasali Pridemage is a 2-cost 2/2 with Exalted. I don't care about the Exalted, but he has pay 1, sacrifice him to destroy target artifact and enchantment. And that's really his sole purpose, is to destroy artifacts and enchantments. Fauna Shaman, 2-cost 2/2, pay a green, tap her, discard a creature card, search for any creature card. This really helps being toolboxy for the deck, so if someone has an artifact I need to kill, I can get that creature. If someone has an enchantment I need to kill, I can get that creature. Someone has a planeswalker that has to die, I can take care of it, or a land, I can find the right creature to destroy that permanent. Eternal Witness, 3-cost 2/1. When she comes into play, I can put any card from my hand, my graveyard back in my hand. She's awesome. Reclamation Sage, 3-cost 2/1. When she comes in, I can destroy an artifact or an enchantment. You know, you can see where this is going with this theme of the deck. Big Game Hunter, 3-cost 1/1. When he comes into play, I can search my library. Sorry, I'm completely telling the wrong card. 3-cost 1/1. When he comes into play, I can destroy any creature with power 4 or greater. Very similar to Intrepid Hero, he can kill creatures with power 4 or greater, but he also has Madness. So if somehow I discard him, I can pay a black to put him right into play, which really works nicely with Fauna Shaman. I can pay the green and pitch him to search for a creature, and then pay his Madness and bring him right into play to kill something. Harmonic Sliver, when it comes into play, I can destroy an artifact or enchantment, and all my slivers will do that from then on, which is only 2 slivers, and the next one is here. Necrotic Sliver, all my slivers have pay 3, sacrifice this creature to destroy target permanent. Gives me more or less a Vindicate on a stick. You know, I'll take it because I'll do his ability, then res him and do it again. Jarad, Golgari, Lich Lord. He's awesome. He gives me a sack outlet where I pay 3, sacrifice a creature, and each opponent will lose life equal to that creature's power. And it's awesome that it's each opponent. You know, that's what really makes him powerful. I don't care that he gets a +1/+1 for every creature in the yard, or that I can sacrifice stuff to res him. It's It's his sacrifice ability that I really use him for. Disciple of Bolas has been an absolute beatstick since I put him in the deck. When he comes into play, I have to sacrifice a creature that isn't him. When I do, from that creature's power that I sacrifice, I draw cards and gain life. I mean, what more could you want? Archon of Justice, when he dies, I can exile a permanent. So, you know, oh, I have Disciple of Bolas. He came in. I'll sacrifice Archon of Justice. So Archon of Justice died, I can exile something, exile any permanent I want, and I'll draw 4 cards and gain 4 life. So you can really see where Disciple of Bolas will shine with a lot of my creatures. And also Archon of Justice is awesome. Acidic Slime, 5 cost 2/2. When he comes in, I can destroy an artifact or an enchantment or a land. It's nice to be able to get rid of those Kessig Wolf runs and those Rogues passages. You know, things that are really going to affect me late game. Indrik Stomphowler, 5 cost 4/4. When he comes in, I can destroy an artifact or enchantment. Puppeteer Clique, 5 cost 3/2 with flying and persist. When he comes in, I can res a creature from an opponent's graveyard. It gives that creature haste, and then at the end of turn, I sacrifice that creature. A lot of times I won't use the haste unless it's a tap ability. I won't res their creature, then attack with it. But what I will do is I'll res their creature and then do what I'm going to do, then pass turn and their creature's exiled. And that's really what he's there for, is to exile their creatures. Revelark is an amazing, amazing creature. He's a 5 cost 4/3 flyer. When he dies, I can res 2 creatures with power 2 or less. That is awesome. Being able to get back 2 creatures for just him, really, really good. And I can evoke him to get his ability kicked in right away. Karmic Guide, 5 cost 2/2 flying, angel, prop black, echo, this, that, the other thing. All I really care about is their ability where I can res a creature for free when she comes into play. And for 5 mana to be able to res like a 7 or 8 cost guy is awesome. Brutalizer Exarch, he is my replacement for Silver Primordial when he got banned. When he comes into play, I can put any permanent from an opponent's side of the board on the bottom of the library, or I can tutor for a creature to the top of my library. So having those 2 modes out, really, really nice. Sun Titan, when he comes in, I can res any permanent card from my graveyard to my battlefield, as long as it costs 3 or less. And then I can also do it every time he attacks. Awesome. Really awesome. Harvester of Souls and his cousin Soul of the Harvest. These 2 guys are really nice together. Whenever a creature dies with him, I'm going to draw a card as long as it's not a token. And whenever a creature comes in with him, as long as it's not a token, I'll draw a card. So draw a card on death, draw a card on life. Really, really nice. Mikaeus the Unhallowed is amazing. 6 cost, 5/5 with Intimidate. That's not really super relevant most of the time. Whenever a human attacks me and deals damage to me, it's destroyed. Not super relevant. The fact that he gives all my non-humans Undying is amazing. Undying is an amazing ability that whenever one of my creatures... It's more or less the same thing as Persist. Persist and Undying are 2 great abilities to reuse enter the battlefield abilities. But he gives it to all my creatures just statically. It's just there. And that's great. Yosei the Morningstar, when he dies, 6 cost, 5/5 flying dragon. When he dies, I can tap 5 permanents that my opponent controls, and they skip their next untap. So what I can do is I can kill him off to make you skip your untap and tap down 5 things, and then on my next turn res him, kill him again, so you skip your untap again and tap down 5 more things, and essentially I can lock out an opponent. So I can turn it into a 2-player game. If it was a 3-player game, I can take somebody just completely out of the game with just this 1 card and a res or 2. Angel of Despair, 7 cost, 5/5 flying angel. When she comes into play, I can destroy any kind of permanent. Killing those any permanents is awesome. Monarch Primordial, if you see my cycle review, you know I really like this guy. When he comes in, I can exile a creature from each opponent, and they gain life equal to its power. And frankly, I'll take that trade-off. Because unless you're gaining 200 or 300 life, I'm fine with you gaining 5 or 10 to lose a creature forever. That's a good trade-off in my book. Rune-Scarred Demon, 7 cost 5/5 flyer. 6/6 flyer. When he comes into play, I can exile. I can tutor for a card. Basically, I play him. I demonic tutor. No big deal. Sepulchral Primordial, 7 cost 5/5 5/4 with Intimidate. When he comes into play, I can res a creature from each opponent. It doesn't die at end of turn. It's not exiled at end of turn. I don't have to give it back. I just get it. Very nice. Viscera Blood Arbiter. This guy is a bomb. Free sack outlet. He gets huge. He has flying. He has lifelink. He can kill creatures. I mean, if you're playing black-white and you're not playing him, maybe you don't know about him, or maybe you just haven't seen him in action, but he can do some amazing things. Shield with the Whispering One is a 7-cost, 6/6 with Swamp Walk. Swamp Walk I don't really use a lot, but what she does is amazing. At the beginning of my upkeep, I get a free res from my graveyard, and at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they have to sacrifice a creature. It's actually really funny when multiple people have Shield Words out and you're just kind of bouncing creatures in and out of the graveyard, but she is really amazing in my book. Woodfall Promise, 8-cost 6/6 with Trample, with Persist. When he comes into play, he can destroy a non-creature permanent. It's amazing because you play him, you're going to be able to destroy at least 2 things most of the time because he's going to persist. Ashen Rider. This guy is phenomenal. If you're not playing Ashen Rider and you're playing black-white, I'd have to ask you why with a weird look on my face, because for 8 mana, you're exiling a permanent when he comes in and a permanent when he dies. Those permanents are exiled. You can exile planeswalkers, lands, anything you want. It just says permanent. And it's exiled. And he flies. And he's cool. Look at him. He's like a dude riding a huge thing. He's pretty cool. Terastodon, Big T as we call him in our play group. 8-cost, 9/9. So he hits pretty hard on his own, but you know, when he comes in, you can destroy 3 non-creature permanents. So it's as if you just cast 3 Woodfall Promises. That's awesome. For the small downfall of having to give your opponents a 3/3 elephant per permanent. I'll take that trade every time. I'll take out your Planeswalker and give you a 3/3 elephant. Yeah, no problem. I'll take out 3 of your lands and give you 3 3/3 elephants. No problem. So now we're going to go into some combos that I have in the deck and some synergies in here. Alright, so now I'm going to be going over some of the combos that are in the deck. I was going to go over the synergies, but really that'd be a hard list to do because almost everything synergizes with something. This is a deck that's really gone through a lot of tinkering, a lot of toying with. It's been around with me for a while, and it's really come to be quite the powerhouse deck. So everything synergizes with something. There's nothing that just does something on its own. Everything does something on its own, but can also play well with others. So now I'm going to go over some of the better combos in the deck. And I have 3 that really revolve around Mikaeus the Unhallowed. The first one is with him and Vishkal. Now what these 2 do together is give me unlimited creature kill. The way that works is I sacrifice Vishkal to his own ability, so he'll die and he's gone. But he has Undying, so he immediately comes back, but he has a +1/+1 counter. So now I use that +1/+1 counter with his second ability, remove that +1/+1 counter, and give a -1/-1 to a creature. And now Vishkal has no more counters on himself. Then I sacrifice him to himself again, and he comes back with another counter again. And basically what that will allow me to do is to reuse his ability again and again and just kill every creature on the board. So these 2 on the board, once I sacrifice Vishkal himself and he comes back with that counter, the engine starts, and I can kill every single creature immediately. And then keeping in the theme with Mikaeus, what I can do with Puppeteer Clique is more or less the same thing, is I can res every creature on the board. I can play him, res a creature, use one of my free sack outlets like Viscera Seer or Ashnod's Altar or Vishkal. And what I do is I play Puppeteer Clique, res a creature, at the end of turn it's going to exile. I sacrifice him and he'll persist to Vishkal. I sacrifice him to Vishkal, he'll persist, come back, use his ability again. I'll sacrifice him again to Vishkal. Now because he had the -1/-1 counter, he cannot persist, but he can undie. So he'll come back and he'll undie. And then he'll do the same thing. He'll res a creature. And then I can res every creature in every graveyard and then pass turn and they're all exiled. So I've exiled everyone's creatures that they had in their graveyard and they're gone forever. And then I can even do the same thing with Woodfall Promise. I play him, I destroy a non-creature permanent, I sacrifice him to Vishkal. He's going to persist. And then I'm going to destroy another permanent, sacrifice him again. Since he persists and has that -1/-1 counter, he's going to undie and come back with a +1/+1 counter and do it all over again. And then, yeah, it's going to more or less be just like that. And then if I add in Viscera Seer to the same mix. The same mix I have right here going on. I can set up my draws perfectly from now on. And the way that will work is if I have out Mikaeus and Viscera Seer, so these two are right here, and I have Vishkal. I play Vishkal. Instead of sacrificing Vishkal to himself, I sacrifice him to Viscera Seer. And I scry. Now, Vishkal is going to come back. He's going to undie with that +1/+1 counter. I use that +1/+1 counter, -1/-1. I remove the +1/+1 counter to give any creature -1/-1, or if there's no creatures on the board because I've killed them all, give it to Vishkal himself, turn him into a 4/4, and then sacrifice him to scry again. Now, what that lets me do is set up perfect draws from that point forward. I can draw whatever card I want from my deck as my next draw with these 3 cards on the board. Perfect card drawing from that point forward. And then I have another little 2-card combo. That'll be these two right here. And what this will do is I play Sun Titan, I res any one of my 3 cost or less cards. It doesn't really matter which particular one it is. And I play Saffi Eriksdotter. And I just kind of keep swinging with Sun Titan. Swing, 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 swing. And if Sun Titan is ever going to die, I sacrifice Saffi to him. Or I sacrifice Saffi to her own ability to give Sun Titan that shield. And as soon as he dies, boom, he comes back, res that 3 cost or less card, he's going to bring back Saffi. These two together are very hard to deal with. Because as long as I have the 2 of them on the board, it's going to be very hard to kill either one. Damn near impossible unless you have some instant speed exile. Another little combo I have is these right here. So what this will let me do is basically a lot of resing. And I net a res every time. So if I have these 2 on the board, no big deal, whatever. I just have them down. They're just hanging out. And I evoke Revelark. Because I evoke him, he's going to immediately die. Well, actually, it's better if a lot of cards are in my graveyard, to be completely honest. I actually only need Revelark. Revelark is an engine almost by itself. I evoke Revelark, he comes in, immediately dies. Because he died, I can res 2 creatures. So let's say I res these 2. Now what's going to happen here is she's going to res a creature, and it's going to be Revelark to come back. And then Saffi Eriksdotter will come back as my other res. So what I can do from this point forward is when any one of these will die, I'll sacrifice Saffi to Revelark. Revelark will die and come back. And that's going to bring back Saffi. And as long as Karmic God was going to die as well, then Revelark brings back Karmic God, which nets me a res. So I can use the res off Karmic God to say, hey, I'll bring back Woodfall Primus. It's really just a powerhouse engine with these 3 cards. You can do crazy, crazy things with them. It's just a lot of resing. And it's really a lot of graveyard manipulation. And yeah, it's really just some powerhouse graveyard manipulation. That's what this deck really is. It really focuses on manipulating my graveyard to keep it as basically a second hand at all times. And as far as, I mean, I'll lay them out. These are all cards that are dedicated to Resurrection. So we have Sepulchral Primordial, Shieldred, Ameria, Regrowth, Down and Dirty, Recollect, Deathbridge Chant, Oversold Cemetery, Debtor's Knell, Sun Titan, Saffi Eriksdotter, Revelark, Karmic God, Mikaeus, my general himself is reses, Woodfall Primus will res itself, Puppeteer Clique will res itself. I mean, there's so many cards in this deck that just res. It's really what this deck is all about. It's the only thing it really does is just res, res, res. And that's how it wins, is that long game of attrition where it just keeps on going and it doesn't stop. And that's the whole point of it, just to keep going, to not stop, to never end, to always rebuild, to survive, outwin, outlast. So as you can see, I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 16 cards, plus my general, 17 cards that are solely dedicated to res. That's 17% of my deck is solely dedicated to res. Then another, 38 is land. So half my deck is land or res. And almost half my deck alone is creatures, some of which is the res creatures, but I mean, you can really see that that's where this deck goes. This deck goes for res. And that's where a lot of the synergy comes, is that since I have so much res, all my creatures do something when they come in. I don't have just a guy who doesn't do anything. So I can res a particular creature to serve a particular purpose and get rid of any kind of permanent. Oh, you have a creature that needs to die? I'll bring out Big Game Hunter. You have a creature in your graveyard that I need to get rid of? I'm going to bring out Puppeteer Clique. You have some guys on your board that I need you to sacrifice? I'm going to bring out Shieldred. You have some guys in your yard that I want to res? I'm going to bring out Sepulchral. You know, you have some permanents I can't get rid of? I'm going to bring out Woodfall Primus or Terastodon. Or Ashen Rider, or Angel of Despair. I mean, I can kill any kind of permanent. This deck has phenomenal colors, and really just, it goes the long game. So I mean, if you like the deck, you know, like, comment, subscribe. The deck list will be posted in the description. Let me know what you think. It's really probably one of my favorite decks. I play it if I think the game is going to go long. If I feel it's going to be a short game, I don't even bother because it won't win. But yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks a lot.